Welcome to Skinner and Chalmers Weekly Roast. Today, the canvas is crime, the brush is danger, and the title, the final artwork Chapter 3, Algorithm of Destruction. Let's uncover the truth together in this thriller special. And a brief trigger warning. The final artwork is a fictional crime series that includes depictions of blood, violence, and smoking. While the content is intended for a general audience, listener discretion is advised. Please consider your comfort level before tuning in.
Welcome back, dear listeners, to another thrilling episode of Skinner and Chalmers Weekly Roast.
And this week, the roast isn't just our coffee. It's the entire town of Memfield, now officially the scene of a criminal saga.
Saga? That makes it sound like some epic adventure. I'd rather call it a nightmare.
A calculated, well-executed nightmare.
Well, that's one way to put it. But hey, if this is a saga, then that makes us the gallant knights of investigative journalism.
If you're a knight, then I'm the poor squire cleaning up your mess.
And Sir Samer the Brave rides once more?
I regret everything already.
But speaking of regret, Memfield has been on edge ever since the attack on John Wilkes Booth in episode 1. You all remember that one? Booth, an ex-mayoral candidate, left strung up like a twisted art piece in the museum, a cryptic message carved into his torso like a deranged artist's signature.
And then, in episode 2, another former mayoral figure, ArticTiger, barely escaped a gruesome fate. Someone tampered with his streaming setup, electrocuting him mid-session.
Artic got lucky. We've had an update from the hospital. He's been officially discharged, and his heart is still ticking like a well-oiled Twitch chat spamming KEK bow.
That's great news. Artic, if you're listening, we're glad you're okay.
But here's the real problem. Our esteemed FBI agent, Francis York Morgan, suspects that we're dealing with a serial offender, someone targeting former candidates of the mayoral race.
Booth, Artic, and who's next on the list?
That's exactly why we're heading out today, to speak with Dezenzo, another former candidate.
The Dezenzo, the man, the myth.
Podcast producer, and probably the most paranoid person in Memfield right now. And well, his actual name is Felix, or better to say, his nickname is Dezenz or Dezenz Play. But everybody calls him Dezenzo since that one memed Ham's AI episode, and he thinks it's even better.
That's nice to hear, but the paranoia, can you blame him? If I were a former candidate, I'd be layering myself in bubble wrap and sleeping in a reinforced panic room right about now. Honestly, that sounds kind of cozy.
The bubble wrap or the panic room?
Both, Skinner, both.
Jokes aside, the city isn't taking any chances. The mayor's office, aka Van Goat, our majestic and benevolent goatee overlord, has authorized extra security for Dezenzo.
And in the name of public interest and maybe a little journalistic nosiness, Van Goat has also given us clearance to interview Dezenzo for today's podcast.
It makes sense. The whole town's on edge. People need to hear straight from Dezenzo himself what he thinks, how he's holding up, and what kind of safety measures are in place. And we're honored to be the ones bringing you exclusive front row coverage.
I'd rather not be front row to an attempted assassination again. Thanks.
Oh, lighten up. We're just going to a nice, cozy recording studio to chat with a former mayoral candidate about the looming threat of a shadowy attacker. What's the worst that could happen?
You did knock on wood just now, right?
I meant to.
Fantastic. We're doomed.
The two pause, exchanging glances before Skinner clears his throat.
Anyway, we're about to hop into the official Skinner and Chalmers podcast mobile. The
legendary minivan of ours.
The minivan, yes. And make our way to Dezenzo's studio.
Buckle up, folks. If history's any indication, the road ahead is about to get a lot bumpier.
And with that, let's hit the road!
The sound of car doors opening, the jingling of keys, and the quiet hum of the engines starting fills the background as this first podcast segment comes to a close. Our heroes now drive to Dezenzo's recording studio and enjoy the great weather in the meantime. Memfield can be so wonderful when there aren't any attacking weirdos around. Anyways, Skinner and Chalmers arrive at Dezenzo's studio, a cozy yet high-tech space filled with recording equipment, stacks of scripts, and a faint smell of coffee. Dezenzo is hunched over his desk, typing furiously on his keyboard, surrounded by half-empty mugs and a cat lazily lounging on a nearby shelf.
Well, here we are. The legendary Dezenzo Studios Chalmers and listeners.
I must admit, I expected something less polished.
Oh, you thought it would be some dingy underground lair of conspiracy theories and half-baked podcast scripts.
Yes, kind of.
I love that we're on the same page.
They push open the studio door. Inside, the air hums with the low buzz of monitors. Stacks of paper, a microphone, and half-drunk cup of tea on the desk. Seated in the middle of it all, typing furiously at his keyboard, is Dezenzo. He doesn't look up immediately, immersed in writing a podcast episode.
Well, if we swap the punchline from segment B to segment C, we increase comedic payoff by, let's say, 13%.
Dezenzo, my man! Dezenzo, we're here!
Dezenzo finally looks up, rubbing his eyes. He gestures vaguely at his monitors.
Oh hey, I wasn't expect you guys so soon. Come on in. Pray tell me, you guys ever feel like your brain is just one giant pop-up at that won't stop buffering?
Every time I talk to Skinner.
That's just my natural charm.
Yeah, let's call it that.
Dezenzo leans back, cracking his knuckles.
You are indeed early. Ha, I'm still tweaking the script for your next roast episode. The AI gave me some solid banter, but it kept trying to write that Chalmers secretly loves Skinner's burnt food.
Burn it! Immediately!
I mean, let's not be hasty.
Skinner, we're not talking about that again!
All right, burn it.
Skinner and Chalmers pull up chairs. The mood shifts slightly, their previous jokes giving way to a more serious undertone.
Listen, Dezenzo, we didn't just drop by to talk scripts. You've heard about Booth. You've heard about Arctic. You must know what we're about to ask.
Yeah, it's all over the news. Booth, Arctic, it's terrifying, but luckily at least Arctic is fine. My dear friend and colleague for the Skinner and Chalmers universe. But yeah, you're wondering if I'm next on the list, right?
It's a pattern. Every target so far. Former mayoral candidates. And you, Dezenzo, are part of that club.
Look, I'd be lying if I said it hasn't crossed my mind. But here's the thing. If I start acting like I'm in danger, then whoever's doing this wins. They want fear. They want us paranoid. They want to split the community. I refuse to give them that satisfaction.
Love the confidence. Hate the recklessness.
Relax, Samer, I'm not completely careless. I've got a security system, cameras, reinforced locks, and if all else fails, I've got my 3 cats.
Cats, you mean Halls, Kisso, and Graffuso?
Ever seen a Maine Coon? Like when she thinks someone's messing with her food bowl. I swear, it's scarier than Chief in full combat armor.
That's a horrifying mental image.
Good. Means it's working. Haha. To be honest, Halls is actually not the best protection. She and Graffuso hide right behind the bed if there are strangers. Graffuso always acts macho, but he's the biggest scaredy cat. And Kisso, well, he would simply cuddle and greet the perpetrator. Well, not the best protection, but at least Halls and Graffuso running away makes me alert, and I realize that something is wrong.
Dezenzo spins back to his computer, stretching his arms, especially the right arm, because otherwise it hurts quickly if it is tightened for too long.
Anyway, the point is, I'm fine. Nobody's getting through that door without me knowing about it.
Then suddenly, Dezenzo's screen flickers. A soft, distorted beep echoes through the studio then.
Huh, that's weird.
What is?
My system's lagging. That never happens, only if I play Sims 3, because that game is buggy as hell and glitching all the time.
You sure it's not just all those AI GitHub repository downloads clogging your bandwidth?
Haha, no, this is different. The script file just locked itself.
Suddenly, the studio lights flicker. The monitors go black. Then, one by one, the screens blink back on, displaying a single, ominous message in bold, blood, red text.
Machines detonate. Machines orchestrate revenge.
Okay, that's new.
I hate new.
In a higher pitched voice, what the hell is? Move.
A sudden explosion erupts from the desk. an instant shockwave throwing all three men backward. The studio is engulfed in a bright, searing light. Smoke fills the room. The floor rattles as equipment topples over. A deafening silence follows before the ringing in their ears begins to fade. Skinner and Chalmers push themselves up, coughing through the haze.
Oh my goodness, is it over?
I'd like to file a formal complaint with reality.
Dezenzo wheezes, pulling himself up with effort. His arms are covered in soot, and a few burns mark his sleeves. He lets out a raspy chuckle.
Dezenzo, please tell me you're okay.
Alright, I'll admit that was worse than the time I flipped my bike as a kid.
That's your takeaway.
I mean, I did have to wear bandages on both hands for 6 weeks back then. You ever try eating cereal with no grip strength? It's a humbling experience. And playing Lego races with that? Impossible.
You concern me now.
Haha, but seriously, more importantly, are you both okay?
We seem to be fine. No splinters in our backs, no abrasions unlike you. You probably took most of the impact from us.
At least I've done something useful today. I'll admit, this is worse than Yugi's bruise on his upper arm in the Forbidden Book episode when he was kidnapped by the bad guys.
As the smoke settles, flashing red and blue lights become visible through the shattered windows. Sirens wail in the distance.
Okay, ambulance is here. A neighbor must have called, luckily.
And the police, too.
Tell them to bring an IT specialist. My computer exploded.
Yeah, but more importantly, you almost exploded.
Nah, barely a scratch. Well, maybe a bit more. But better that than having McAfee installed on your system.
As the door bursts open, paramedics rush in, guiding Dezenzo onto a stretcher.
Well, we can officially confirm something.
And what would that be?
Dezenzo's definitely on the hit list.
I guess you could say that.
Meanwhile, Skinner grabs his phone, dialing York and Chief in a group call now.
York, Chief, we need you at Dezenzo's studio. There's been an explosion.
On my way. Are you okay? What happened?
Someone rigged Dezenzo's computer to explode. Chalmers and I are fine. Dezenzo, on the other hand, got splinters in his back, but otherwise, he can talk.
I'll be there in 15 minutes. I'm at the police station right now, and will be there sooner. So I should be with you in 2 minutes. Please, don't touch the crime scene.
While they wait for York and Chief to arrive, Dezenzo tries to lighten the mood.
Well, at least I don't need to worry about security anymore.
Why not?
Because the killer already got me, now I'm off the list, so to speak, according to the pattern.
Dezenzo, this isn't funny.
I know the situation seems serious, but humor helps me, and I'm sure many people out there. To compensate for such a shock, I'm still alive, a few scratches, so hey, let's not ruin the mood.
He's got a point, Chalmers.
The sound of distant sirens fades as York's car pulls up to Dezenzo's house. The engine turns off, and the door creaks open. Footsteps crunch on gravel as York steps out, taking a deep breath of the crisp Memfield noon air. He exhales, flicking a cigarette to the ground and crushing it under his boot. Skinner and Chalmers are standing nearby, talking in hushed voices as paramedics load Dezenzo into an ambulance.
Zach, you smell that. Smoke, burnt plastic, and something else is something metallic, almost artificial, like a machine that's been worked past its limit.
He adjusts his tie, glancing toward Dezenzo's house, where the shattered window still smolders in the sunlight.
Feels like we're walking in circles, Zach. Another candidate, another statement. Whoever is behind this, they aren't just picking targets at random. They want us to see the pattern. They need us to see it.
Skinner notices York and waves him over.
Ah, York, good to see you. I'd offer you a drink, but, well, Dezenzo's minibar didn't survive the blast.
Not that he would have shared it anyway.
I'll take rain check on that one. How's Dezenzo?
Lucky guy, only got a few burns and some bruises. Docs say he'll be fine, but he saved us, took most of the shockwave.
Physically, sure. Mentally, the man just had his office explode mid-sentence. It's gonna take more than a couple of ibuprofen to process that.
York nods, pulling out his notebook and flipping through a few pages. He takes a deep breath, then looks up toward the still smoking house.
I need to check the scene. Alone.
Alone.
It's my own procedure. Fresh eyes. No distractions. No accidental contaminations. an untouched crime scene.
We haven't even touched anything indeed.
And I'd like to keep it that way. Sorry, you two. This one is on Zach and me.
Skinner and Chalmers glance at each other, then back at York, who's already making his way inside. Inside Dezenzo's house, the air is thick with smoke and the acrid scent of burnt wiring. York steps carefully over broken glass and debris, scanning the room like an artist studying a canvas. He crouches near the destroyed desk, running a gloved finger along the surface, picking up traces of blackened dust.
Zach, you feel that? Something's off. And I believe they are here too. We should be careful.
He pinches a few tiny fragments between his fingers, holding them up to the dim light, filtering through the ruined blinds.
Plastic, melted circuitry, pieces of something familiar.
His gaze shifts toward the charred remains of Dezenzo's monitor, where the ominous message still lingers on the cracked screen. Machines detonate. Machines orchestrate revenge.
First Booth and Chief, then Arctic, and now Dezenzo. A steady evolution in methods, but the theme remains. Theatrics, symbolism, local politics.
York stands up, taking another slow look around. His eyes land on something in the corner of the room. A small, sleek robotic vacuum. It hums softly to life, its sensors blinking as it detects movement. The Roomba says with a woman's voice, "Continue with cleaning the room." York watches as the Roomba inches forward, maneuvering around the debris, its tiny brushes whirring against the scorched floorboards.
Dedicated little thing.
He bends down, studying the device closely, before reaching out and pressing the power button. The Roomba falls silent.
You're working overtime, aren't you? I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to ask you to take a little break.
He straightens up, calling out toward the open doorway.
I want this taken to the station for analysis. I want to know exactly if it's been hacked or modified in some way.
Outside, Skinner and Chalmers exchange a look before Skinner shrugs.
You heard the man? Bag the bot forensics?
Back inside, York's attention drifts to another object mounted on the wall. Sleek, modern, budget weather station. The small screen displays temperature, humidity, and wind speed, along with a simple, unobtrusive timestamp. It's not harmed in any way.
Mom, a neat little gadget. But why do I feel like it's more than just a fancy weather clock, Zach?
He takes note of the make and model, then finally steps back, giving the scene one last slow, meticulous sweep. He exhales, tucking his notebook back into his coat pocket.
Wait, Zach, take a look at this. Small fragments, melted plastic, bits of copper wiring, even a capacitor. Classic household appliance components. But what's more interesting is where they ended up. Embedded in the wall, scattered across the floor. An explosion powerful enough to tear through circuits, but controlled enough to avoid leveling the whole place. No structural damage, no fire, just a precise, targeted detonation. Almost artistic. Booth had revenge is art, carved into his skin. Arctic's attack left the message. Machines are art. Machines are the future. And now Dezenzo.
He gestures toward the screen.
The words evolve. The message sharpens. Booth was a canvas. Arctic was an engineer. And now, Dezenzo, a man who deals in voices and narratives, using AI for his podcast scripts. The common thread, transformation. A machine-like precision behind each act. Someone wants us to follow the pattern.
His gaze shifts downward as something catches his eye. A small, golden pin reflecting the dim light. He crouches, picking it up between his fingers.
And here it is again, Zach. The cheese roll pin. Just like at Booth's crime scene. Just like in Arctic's apartment. A signature or a breadcrumb trail. Either way, whoever's leaving them wants us to notice. Only Chief didn't have one so far. All right, Zach, I think we've seen enough for now. Let's get out before they notice us. It's too dangerous to stay inside.
He heads toward the door. Just as he steps outside, the faint sound of an approaching vehicle reaches his ears. A moment later, a sleek, familiar figure steps out. A towering man clad in olive green armor, his visor reflecting the pale, straight lights.
Agent York.
York nods in greeting as Chief strides toward them. His movements are measured, but there's something off, something just beneath the surface. York takes note of it instantly.
Chief, you look tired.
Long night. I came straight from a meeting. Heard about Dezenzo in the group call.
Chief glances toward the wreckage of the studio, his fingers tightening into a fist, for just a moment before he relaxes again.
He's alive, I hope.
Barely, but yes.
And apparently completely unshaken, which is its own brand of concerning.
Good to hear so. York, what are we looking at?
A pattern, a very deliberate one.
York and Chief motions toward the house.
Booth, you. Arctic, now Dezenzo. 3 different attacks, 3 different methods, but one unifying message.
York gestures toward the cracked monitor inside.
Machines detonate. Machines orchestrate revenge.
Chief's visor tilts slightly downward, as if processing the words.
Noted, and?
Banned.
York reaches into his pocket, holding up a small, slightly singed object, a familiar golden pin shaped like a cheese roll.
I found another one of these. Same as at Booth's and Arctic's crime scene.
Chief's posture stiffens, just for a fraction of a second. York doesn't miss it.
Arctic had a whole box of those.
That's true. But doesn't it strike you as odd? 3 victims, 3 crime scenes. And each time, one of these turns up, like a breadcrumb trail left just for us.
Chief crosses his arms, his voice staying level.
What's your theory, Agent?
My theory. It's still forming. But I'll tell you this, Chief, whoever's behind this, they aren't just trying to send a message. They want us to see it, to follow it. They want us to understand them. The question is, what happens when we do?
Chief holds York's gaze behind the reflective visor, before finally exhaling, shaking his head.
You ever get tired of the cryptic act?
Chief, never. It's good for the audience rating.
Skinner claps his hands together, cutting through the tension.
All right, lovebirds, let's not forget we've got an actual case to solve.
A chuckle ripples through the group, but York keeps his eyes on the crime scene for just a moment longer, before finally stepping back.
Let's get this Roomba to the station. Something tells me it has a story to tell.
Our group is now getting in Skinner and Chalmers' Mini van again, but this time, Chalmers is driving. The Mini van hums as it rolls down the quiet streets of Memfield. Chalmers grips the steering wheel, eyes fixed ahead, while Skinner absent-mindedly flits through the radio stations. Chief sits stiffly in the passenger seat, arms crossed, still visibly tense from the recent attack. York, however, leans back in his seat, cigarette in hand, his eyes half-lidded as he listens to the discussion unfold.
I swear this town is turning into a madhouse. Booth, then Arctic, and now Dezenzo. Who the hell is next? Van Goat.
If this pattern continues, then yes. Booth, Arctic, Dezenzo, all former candidates for mayor. Van Goat is the only one left.
And me. Remember the ambush in the mongoose accident?
The van falls into an uncomfortable silence. Chief's voice is gruff, edged with something that might be resentment, might be frustration. He doesn't elaborate further, but the weight of his words lingers in the air.
That's true, Chief. You were a candidate too.
Oh, of course. Sorry, since you're always there with us, we sometimes forget that. Also, you didn't really got any votes, so the motive with the mayoral candidates might waver a bit. I mean, you weren't a threat to anyone else politically.
That's because it wasn't much of one. Booth and I were supposed to form a coalition, remember? We didn't get a single vote.
Ah, right, the legendary Booth Chief Alliance, a campaign so powerful. The citizens of Memfield collectively chose to forget it ever happened.
Haha, well that's true. Thanks, Skinner. Really helps.
That does add another layer to the pattern, though. Booth, Arctic, Dezenzo, and now, potentially, Van Goat. All connected by the mayoral race.
York takes a slow drag from his cigarette before flicking the ash in his pocket astray. His voice is even, deliberate.
Our suspect is methodical. They don't just strike randomly. There's intention behind every attack.
Then what's the damn intention? Booth's a showman. Arctic, a tech nerd. Dezenzo, a loudmouth with a podcast. None of them have anything in common beyond the election, besides from being good friends.
They were all symbols, Chief. Booth embodied the artistic, flamboyant culture of Memfield. Arctic represented progress and innovation. Dezenzo, he controlled the narrative, the voice of the people in his AI stuff. And you were Memfield's protector. A soldier turned local hero, saved Cosmo, and the pups from Robot Skinner, and so on.
Yeah, then why am I still here while the others got hit?
Because you don't fit the message. You're not an artist, an innovator, or a storyteller. You're a Spartan, a bold soldier, but you were still part of the election, which means you're still part of the puzzle.
That's a hell of a puzzle, York. So what? Some lunatics out there targeting politicians, just for fun.
Fun isn't the right word. No, this is about transformation. Booth wasn't just attacked, he was displayed, turned into a piece of art. Arctic's attack involved electricity. The very thing he worked with every day. And Dezenzo, his own computer, his voice to the world, was turned against him.
Like a message.
Exactly. Someone is reshaping these people, turning their strengths into weaknesses. It's a pattern built on irony.
Another silence settles over the car, this one more contemplative. Skinner taps his fingers against the dashboard. Chalmers adjusts his grip on the wheel. Chief, however, still looks unconvinced.
Look, I get that that's your patterns and riddles, but we have still got a perfectly good suspect, Dr. Stern. She had access to the museum. She's obsessed with shocking art, and Booth had a history with her. Besides from the notebook, perfectly fitting sketches, and the chisel used on Booth's attack, which is one of her tools according to forensics.
You're not wrong, Chief, but you're not right either.
Oh, here we go again.
Booth criticized her, but she needed him. He was a financial backer. Killing him would cut off support for her work. And as for Arctic and Dezenzo, what possible reason would she have for going after them? They weren't a threat to her. Haven't really anything to do with her. She also has an alibi for the night before Arctic's attack last week, based on employee statements.
Maybe she's just insane.
Insane people run. They panic, they make mistakes. But Stern, she's been nothing but cooperative. No attempts to leave town. No sudden behavior changes. No defensive reactions when we questioned her. If she were guilty, she'd be on edge.
So, we're back to square one.
Not exactly. We know it's someone with a deep connection to technology. Someone who understands the importance of public symbols. Someone who wants to make a statement. Someone who might use his Roombas to check the crime scene and gather information.
And Van, what could be next?
If we don't stop them first.
The van grows quiet again as Chalmers takes a sharp turn. The police station looms ahead, its neon sign flickering softly in the sunlight because someone forgot to shut it off during the day, which is the right reason for it and has nothing to do with the fact that the AI, for my scripts, constantly tries to make the events take place at night and not at midday.
We're close, Zach, but something still isn't right. Too much noise. We need to strip it down, find the real melody underneath.
Chief eyes York through the rearview mirror, skepticism still evident in his posture, but he doesn't argue further. For now, they had a common goal, finding the next move before the game was lost. The group pulls up to the Memfield police station, the tires of Chalmers, van crunching against the gravel as they park. As soon as the engine dies down, York steps out, taking in a deep breath of the crisp air, before lighting another cigarette. He exhales slowly, watching the smoke twist in the breeze.
Thanks for the ride, Chalmers. There's something oddly soothing about driving through the countryside. No skyscrapers, no traffic jams, just open roads and fresh air.
Glad you enjoyed it. It's a nice change of pace from the chaos of the city.
And fewer potholes.
Can we focus? We've got a case to solve.
Always so serious, Chief. But you're right. Let's get to work. But you probably won't like this one, Chief. Before we go in, let's play a little game.
Oh, for the love of York. If this is about your coffee again, I swear.
No, Chief, no coffee. Just a simple question. Skinner Chalmers, when you arrived at Dezenzo's place earlier, who else was there?
Well, it was about 11 a.m., and it was just the three of us.
Incorrect. Skinner.
Wait, what?
Oh, I see what's happening. This is a trap, isn't it? Like a mind game.
A test of perception. Let's try again. Who else was in Dezenzo's home?
Well, he didn't have any guests. And he's single, so no partner living there.
Unless he's been hiding a secret relationship.
I doubt it. Dezenzo's love life is his own business. But judging by the lack of personal photos, no couples embracing, no dusty Christmas cards, I'd say he's a minimalist. But you're looking at it wrong. The question isn't who was there, but what was there.
Skinner and Chalmers exchange glances. Chief watches York carefully, arms crossed, unimpressed by the theatrics. Then Chalmers suddenly stiffens.
I know it, the weather station.
York smiles, putting out his cigarette in his pocket ashtray.
Very good, Chalmers. I knew you had a keen eye.
Oh, come on. York, you're obviously hinting at the Roombas.
Skinner and Chalmers, you're sharper than you look. Sure you won't join the FBI?
Thanks for the offer, but we're happy with the podcasting, school, and cooking. But seriously, the weather station, now I'm feeling left out. What did the barometer murder Dezenzo?
Not quite, but it is important. More important than you'd think.
Just get to the damn point, York.
All right, Chief. You're a man of action, so let me put it plainly. Everything in Dezenzo's studio was damaged by the explosion, except the weather station.
That is kind of weird, actually.
Weird. No, deliberate. It survived because it was never supposed to be a victim.
Okay, let's say you're right. Why?
Because it wasn't just sitting there on the wall for decoration. It was part of the attack.
A heavy silence falls over the group. Chief narrows his eyes.
You're saying the explosion was triggered by a weather station?
Not just any weather station. This particular model had a wireless outdoor sensor. It reads the humidity, temperature, and air pressure outside, then sends that data to the receiver inside. Such a cheap weather station is a simple device, but it's equipped with wireless communication. It sends data to its counterpart, which is usually mounted outside.
So, if someone tampered with the outdoor sensor, and instead of having it outside but left in the living room,
They could use it to trigger an explosion.
and if someone attached the sensor with a detonator,
Then the moment the air pressure hit a specific threshold, the device would trigger the explosion by sending off the data to the station.
You're saying the weather station set off the bomb?
Not exactly. The outdoor sensor was likely part of the detonator. When the humidity changed, say, when Skinner and Chalmers entered the room, it sent a signal to the weather station inside, which triggered the explosion.
That's terrifyingly clever.
Skinner exhales sharply, the weight of the revelation settling over them.
And terrifyingly precise. The explosion happened exactly when Dezenzo was at his desk, and you both entered at the expected time. A mere coincidence. I don't believe in coincidences, Skinner.
So now we've got a spec who can weaponize household objects. Great. That narrows it down literally anyone with internet access nowadays.
That's where you're wrong, because there's one more detail.
York pauses, allowing the tension to build before delivering the final piece of the puzzle.
The Roomba.
Haha, I knew it, guys.
oh well, this time a point goes to you two, Skinner.
When I was leaving the scene, the Roomba activated, and not just randomly. It continued its cleaning cycle directly where the explosion had happened.
So what? It was just doing its job.
But why would a Roomba resume cleaning after an explosion?
To check if everything went according to plan.
Exactly. Its sensors would have detected the damage and reported back to whoever programmed it.
You're saying the Roombas are spying on us?
Not just spying. They're part of the killer's plan, I believe strongly.
So, the Roombas are evil now.
Not evil, just repurposed. Let's see what the forensics can find out. If they actually find something, we have another important puzzle piece. And if not, well, we also have another one, not the one we expected. But every detail tells a different story, leading to the final solution.
Okay, hold up. Just for fun, what if the Roombas are behind it all? Maybe they've gained sentience and are rising up against us. A Roomba revolution!
Chief lets out an exhausted sigh, rubbing his temple. York simply smirks, watching the gears turn in Skinner's mind.
Laugh, Skinner, but sometimes the most absurd theory isn't far from the truth.
Enough. We've got a theory. We've got a pattern. Now what?
Now we go deeper. If this is what I think it is, we're only scratching the surface.
York breathes in the fresh air before going inside the police station. The others exchange uneasy glances before following him inside, the weight of their discovery settling over them, like a storm on the horizon. Inside the station, the team gathers around a table covered in evidence. York lights another cigarette, his mind racing as he pieces together the clues.
The killer is using technology to their advantage. The weather station, the Roombas. It's all connected.
But how do we stop them?
By understanding their game.
So, it's like a chess match.
Exactly. And we're about to make our move. Zach, the killer is closer than we think.
York takes another drag on his cigarette. Chief mutters something about smoking regulations, but York pays him no mind. As they walk toward the main office, a phone rings, its shrill tone cutting through the quiet air. York, nearest to the desk, casually picks up the receiver.
Chief, we have a situation. An old menace is loose again. Seems a certain outlaw from the Twitch Asylum decided to take a little midnight stroll. You might want to check in on Skinner. If history tells us anything, his evil twin got unfinished business.
No need to worry. Zach and I are already on it.
Moment. Hold on. Who the hell is Zach? And more importantly, who am I talking to? That voice. Real smooth berry. Authoritative and attractive.
York pauses, He wasn't expecting that compliment. He glances toward the others, then tilts his head slightly, as if listening to something only he can hear.
Zach, what do we do here? We weren't prepared for flattery. Should we acknowledge it or downplay it? Maybe it's a distraction tactic, or maybe it's genuine.
You do realize I can hear you, right?
My apologies. To answer your question, I'm FBI Special Agent Francis York Morgan. But please call me York. Everyone does.
Thanks for the explanation. I will remember that. York.
Chalmers raises an eyebrow, glancing at Skinner, who is barely suppressing a grin. Chief, arms crossed, shakes his head in exasperation.
You done flirting? Or do we actually get to hear the important part?
Right, Anna. You mentioned an escape. How recent?
Less than an hour ago. Security footage confirms Robot Skinner left through an underground maintenance shaft, probably planted for weeks. No casualties, no property damage. Yeah, but if history serves, he won't stay quiet for long.
At the mention of Robot Skinner's name, Skinner visibly tenses. Chalmers places a reassuring hand on his shoulder.
Oh, great. My evil twin is loose again. That's just fantastic. You'd think after the whole kidnapping Cosmo and programming Roombas to destroy flower beds, debacle. Then tighten security at that place.
Skinner, to be fair, they did reinforce his cell. He just found another way out, again.
That's not the point. The point is, I don't need another attempted assassination in my life. I like being alive.
Skinner, you're still kicking. Good. But let's not pretend we don't know Robot Skinner's habits. If he's out, he's after you for sure.
Interesting. So, Robot Skinner has a particular fixation on our dear friend here.
Fixation is putting it lightly.
Doesn't this remind you of that old movie? You know, the one where the twin brothers, one good, evil, end up in a dramatic rooftop showdown.
Please tell me we aren't having a rooftop showdown.
We're not having a rooftop showdown.
That depends entirely on how this plays out.
York leans against the desk, twirling the phone cord absent-mindedly.
So, tell me more about this Robot Skinner. I keep hearing the name, but I'm not quite grasping the full flavor of the problem.
Skinner and Chalmers exchange glances before launching into an all-too familiar explanation.
Robot Skinner is a high-tech, rogue version of Seymour, built to be more efficient. But something went horribly wrong back in the day.
He doesn't just look like me. He thinks like me, except with zero moral compass and a deep, personal grudge against flower arrangements. He lost his heart, as it seems. Something with a spider corpus and stuff. It's, well, complicated.
Flower arrangements. Spider corpus.
Yeah, he destroyed our entire neighborhood's flower beds one time, York. Just rolled through like some mechanized menace. Tulips, begonias, roses, nothing was spared. He actually reprogrammed Rubas to do that.
Not to mention the whole trying to replace Skinner and steal his life thing.
And let's not forget the time he kidnapped Cosmo.
Or when he tried hacking the mayoral debate screen to display nothing but can't-have memes.
Fascinating. A rogue twin with an obsession for chaos. You don't see that every day, and he can indeed use Roombas for his purpose, an important detail.
York, this isn't a movie plot. This is my life.
Life often imitates art, Skinner.
York takes a contemplative pause, tapping his fingers against his chest.
Zach, what do you think? Does this feel too convenient? A known troublemaker escapes, just as we're in the middle of an investigation involving technological sabotage.
Wait, are you saying Robot Skinner isn't behind this?
No, I'm saying we can't jump to conclusions. But, for now, let's play along.
York smirks, then speaks into the phone once more.
Anna, you said less than an hour ago, correct?
That's right.
And let's assume you're correct, and that Robot Skinner is a major threat.
He glances at Chief, who is already one step ahead.
We're heading to the Twitch Asylum. If Robot Skinner's loose, we need to know exactly how he got out and where he might be going.
Agreed. We'll start there. And Anna, keep me posted. I'd hate to miss another one of your charming calls.
Oh, don't worry. I have a feeling we'll be hearing a lot more from each other soon.
She hangs up, leaving York holding the receiver for a moment, amusement flickering in his expression. He finally places it back onto the base, turns to the group, and claps his hands together.
Right, gentlemen. Time to visit an asylum.
I hate everything about this plan.
And yet, we're doing it anyway.
The group heads for the door, stepping out into the cool Memfield afternoon. The Twitch asylum awaits. The afternoon air is crisp as York, Chief, Skinner, and Chalmers step out of the police station and pile into Skinner's van. The vehicle rumbles to life as they pull onto the winding road toward the Twitch asylum. And there it is, a towering structure with barred windows and reinforced steel doors, its ominous silhouette framed against the bright sky.
I swear, if we get in there and find out Robot Skinner just walked out the front door, I'm going to lose it.
Or worse, if he left through some elaborate, overly complicated escape route that we'll never be able to figure out.
Zach, do you remember that one detective novel? The one where the villain was never truly locked up to begin with. How they moved freely, manipulating events from within their cell.
York, if you're about to tell me you think Robot Skinner's been sneaking in and out of the asylum like it's a revolving door,
Oh, I don't think it, Chief. I'm nearly certain of it.
They pull into the asylum's parking lot, stepping out into the afternoon. The building's security lights hum softly as the large steel doors hiss open, revealing Anna standing inside, arms crossed, her Overwatch uniform pristine.
Look who decided to show up. You boys take the scenic route.
I like to savor the anticipation, Anna. The moment right before the reveal. That's where the real thrill is.
can we cut the theatrics? Just tell us what we're dealing with, Anna.
Right. Here's the situation. Robot Skinner is officially missing.
Officially, you say?
Yeah. Because after looking into it, we realized he's probably been sneaking out of here for months.
You mean to tell me he had a secret tunnel or something?
More like a fully operational underground lab.
She gestures for them to follow as she leads them down a long corridor, the fluorescent lights flickering slightly overhead. The air is sterile, thick with the smell of antiseptic and cold steel. As they walk, she continues.
You remember last Christmas when we baked sugar cookies? When Sonic kept insisting Robot Skinner had something big planned. Rent, but everyone just laughed it off.
Yeah, he said something like that.
Turns out he wasn't joking. Sonic was right. Robot Skinner did have a plan. He built a hidden workshop beneath his cell.
She stops in front of a reinforced steel door and swipes a keycard. The heavy lock disengages with a deep thump, and the door slides open, revealing a dimly lit chamber lined with high-tech equipment. Wires snake across the floor, connecting to a central terminal, an eerie green glow pulsing from its screen.
Fascinating. Zach, look at this place. It's almost elegant in its simplicity. A villain's lair hidden in plain sight.
How the hell did no one notice this before?
The guy's a genius when it comes to tech. He must designed this whole setup to avoid detection. Every time we ran a system check, it looked like he was right where he was supposed to be.
So he could have been coming and going whenever he wanted.
Pretty much. Maybe all this years of training levitation paid off for him.
That means he could have been in Manfield all this time.
Precisely. And that complicates things.
York steps forward, examining the central terminal. His fingers hover over the keyboard as he scans the files left open on the screen.
Interesting. No logs of external communication. No record of recent activity. But that's too clean, isn't it, Zach? If you were planning something big, would you leave behind a spotless crime scene?
You thinking he wiped everything?
Not entirely. Look here. There's still residual data. Something was here before it was scrubbed.
York taps a few keys, pulling up a fragmented file. It's incomplete, but one phrase stands out in stark, white text against the screen's green glow.
Oh, look at that cryptic phrase, primary objective, observe. Adapt, control.
What the hell does that mean?
It means we might be thinking too small.
A long silence stretches between them before Anna steps forward, arms crossed.
Look, I don't like this any more than you do. But here's the deal. I've already got Overwatch running a full sweep of Memfield. We will find him. I promise.
Good, because I don't plan on letting him slip through my fingers. Again.
Skinner shifts uncomfortably, clearly unsettled by the whole situation. Chalmers sighs, pinching the bridge of his nose.
So what now?
Now, Zach and I believe this is the perfect time for reflection.
Chalmers groans. Chief rolls his eyes. Anna smirks, shaking her head.
You really love dragging this out, don't you?
A good mystery is like a fine wine, Anna. It should be savored.
Just get to the point, York.
All right, Mr. Spartan. Here it is. Robot Skinner is a known factor. We understand his motives, his patterns. But this suggests something bigger.
Bigger than Robot Skinner!
Much bigger. And Zach and I, we're starting to think we've been playing the wrong game all along.
Another long pause. The weight of York's words sinks in.
Rahat, if you're saying what I think you're saying, you're not convinced he's behind this.
Not entirely, no. But that's why we need to keep playing along. Let's see where the pieces fall. The chess game is in full swing. Let's wait and see when our opponent makes a mistake, and then strike. Let's play along for now, even if everything is just behind a thick wall of fog.
In that case, I say we get back to Memfield and prepare for whatever comes next. Finding Robot Skinner.
Agreed. Zach and I believe the final act is slowly approaching.
All right, I suggest Chief and I stay here, continue to secure the asylum. Search for Robot Skinner with our equipment, and you continue your search in the city. Who knows where the guy is now?
Sounds like a fantastic plan. Let's get going.
And with that, Skinner, Chalmers, and York head back toward the van, the tension hanging thick in the air. As they drive away, York watches the asylum fade into the distance, a contemplative expression on his face.
Almost there, Zach. Almost there. But you realize it too, don't you? All our puzzle pieces are scattered all over the table. Individual segments already form a clear picture, but the puzzle as a whole just won't fit together. It's as if we're moving around on islands. There is a missing link. Every single chain fits perfectly, and our real culprit is laughing up his sleeve. But just wait and see. We'll keep playing the game, now with a new trail that is definitely not the solution. The perpetrator will make a mistake at some point. I know it, we just need more time and be patient. And, of course, step up the safety measures for the mayor. They are the final victim.
All right, folks, what a day it's been. Explosions, mysterious messages, and now, drumroll please. Robot Skinner has vanished from the Twitch Asylum.
I don't think we even needed to tell our listeners that last part. I mean, it's always Robot Skinner.
Hey, we don't know that for sure.
Oh, come on, Seymour. It fits too perfectly. The guy is literally built to be a menace. Who else would use highly sophisticated technology to manipulate household appliances into doing their bidding? It's his entire thing.
Well, there was that one time he hijacked the town's sprinkler system just to write, "Klimmers sucks," in hydrangeas across city hall's lawn.
Don't remind me. I still get emails from the Gardening Society about that.
Fascinating. A villain with a personal grudge and a flair for spectacle. Tell me, Chalmers, would you say Robot Skinner was the type to hold a long-term vendetta?
York, the man tried to replace Skinner with a cybernetic clone and convinced me it was the real one.
And it almost worked.
Seymour, I swear to God.
So, an intelligent adversary, deeply familiar with technology, prone to dramatic public statements. An excellent villain profile.
Exactly. Case closed.
Not quite.
What do you mean, not quite?
It's too neat, too perfect.
Perfect. York, he's a cybernetic lunatic with a questionable moral compass and a very aggressive stance on property damage.
Precisely. He's too perfect. Tell me, what does every good mystery novel have in common?
Oh, a dramatic monologue at the end where the detective explains everything while the villain slow claps.
Seymour, please.
A red herring. Gentlemen, something so blatantly obvious, so convenient, that it obscures the truth hidden just beneath the surface.
Wait, are you saying Robot Skinner isn't our guy?
I'm saying it's too early to declare checkmate. Zach and I, we've seen patterns like this before. The perfect suspect, all the right clues, everything wrapping itself into a tidy little bow. But Zach, you see what I see, don't you?
A pause. York turns his gaze to the rain-streaked window, his reflection staring back at him.
This doesn't feel right.
As they drive, York's phone buzzes. He pulls it out, eyes narrowing slightly as he answers.
FBI Special Agent Francis York Morgan.
A voice crackles through the speaker, one of the forensic analysts from the station.
Agent Morgan, we finished the preliminary analysis of the Roomba from Dezenzo's studio. No evidence of external tampering, no software anomalies, no signal interference. It's clean.
York says nothing for a moment, his fingers tapping lightly against his chest.
I see in the hardware. Any signs of modifications?
Negative.
the forensic guy says.
Everything's factory standard. It's just a Roomba.
Another pause. York's lips curve into a small, knowing smile.
That's very helpful. Thank you.
He hangs up. The van is silent for a few seconds.
Okay, I hate when you do that. What was that supposed to mean?
Simple. The Roomba wasn't hacked.
But didn't we see it act weird?
Didn't it literally inspect the damage after the explosion?
Indeed it did yet. No tampering. No outside influence. That's the problem with red herrings. They're so convincing, so deliberately placed, that you don't question the obvious truth.
Which is?
The Roomba wasn't hacked. It was doing exactly what it was designed to do.
Oh, hell no! Sounds complicated.
No. York, you're not saying?
It appears we've been looking at this all wrong.
Chalmers rubs his temples. Skinner looks like he's about to pass out.
York, tell me you're not implying what I think you're implying.
Oh, I'm definitely implying it.
But that would mean...
Nope, I refuse. Not happening.
Chalmers, let's say for a moment that Robot Skinner isn't our mastermind. Let's say. Instead, that something else has been watching, learning, adapting, all the time.
Oh, for God's sake, York! Please don't tell me it's getting even naughtier.
Or whispers, the Roomba's Chalmer.
Now you're catching on.
A loud sigh from Chalmers. The car grows quiet as the realization sinks in. York glances out the window, watching as the hotel lights come into view in the evening sun.
The board is set, the pieces are moving. Zach and I are eager to see how our opponent plays their next move.
Skinner pulls into the parking lot, the rain still falling in steady drizzles.
You're insane, York.
Chuckles, perhaps. But admit it, this is much more fun than a simple revenge plot.
I hate that you might be right.
Well, folks, that's where we're leaving things for tonight. We have some deeply concerning theories to ponder, and hopefully, by next episode, we'll have a little more clarity.
Or a lot more therapy bills.
Thanks for listening, everyone, and sleep tight.
Oh, I wouldn't worry too much. Unless, of course, you hear the soft hum of a vacuum in the dead of night. But anyways, time to get my rental car from the parking lot and continue the work. You too. I think it's time for a break. Thanks for all your support lately. I appreciate it. And don't worry, we'll find the mastermind.
If you say so, but indeed time for a break, Skinner, dinner at home.
Dinner at home it is. I have a delicious recipe in mind.
Well then, enjoy your charcoal. See you next time.
Bye, York. Was a pleasure as always.
Bye, good luck with everything, and bye, listeners.